No one ever noticed the cleaner. She moved through Argentum Towers like a shadow, quiet, careful, and always apologizing for taking up space she never felt she owned. Every morning at 6:30 sharp, Lena arrived before the building truly woke, her cart rattling softly over polished marble floors that reflected lights brighter than her future ever seemed. She wore long sleeves, even in summer. Not because she was cold, but because questions were worse than heat. That morning was supposed to be like all the others. Mop, wipe, empty bins. Stay invisible. Leave no trace except cleanliness. Lena kept her eyes down as she worked near the executive wing, an area she usually avoided. But her supervisor had reassigned her last minute. She didn't complain. She never did. As she bent to lift a heavy trash bag, her arms trembled, not from the weight, but from exhaustion. Bruises ached beneath the fabric, tender reminders of the night before. She winced, teeth sinking into her lip to keep from making a sound. "Here, let me help you." The voice came from behind her. Lena's body reacted before her mind did. She flinched hard, dropping the bag as if it had burned her. Her heart slammed against her ribs. "I'm sorry," she blurted out, panic rising. "I didn't see you." The man bent to pick up the bag. He was tall, well-dressed, composed in a way that spoke of authority. Daniel Royce, CEO of Argentum Corp. A man whose name lived on magazine covers and financial headlines. Lena reached out instinctively to stop him. Her sleeve slid up, time slowed. Purple, blue, and yellow marks bloomed across her pale skin, some fading, some fresh. Finger-shaped bruises wrapped her wrist like a cruel bracelet. Daniel froze mid-motion. His expression changed. Not to anger, not to pity, but to something deeper. Recognition. Lena followed his gaze and felt the blood drain from her face. She yanked her sleeve down, breathing fast. "It's nothing," she said quickly, the lie automatic. "I'm clumsy. I fall a lot." Daniel straightened slowly. His jaw tightened, a muscle ticking beneath his cheek. "Those aren't from falling," he said quietly. Lena's eyes darted to the hallway. To the cameras. To the empty space where witnesses could appear at any moment. "Please," she whispered. "I need this job." That was when Daniel understood. This wasn't about bruises. It was about fear. About survival. About silence bought with desperation. Footsteps echoed down the corridor, executives approaching, laughing, unaware. Lena shrank back, grabbing her mop like a shield. Daniel stepped between her and the hallway, blocking the view. When the voices passed, he turned to her and said, not loudly, but firmly enough to matter. "No one who works in this building is invisible." Lena didn't reply. She couldn't. But something inside her cracked open, just a little. And Daniel walked away knowing one thing with absolute certainty. He would not forget what he had seen. Daniel Royce had closed billion-dollar deals without losing sleep. But that night, sleep refused to come. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the bruises. Not just the colors, purple, yellow, green, but the way Lena had flinched before he ever spoke. Fear that lived in her muscles, trained there over time. Fear he recognized all too well. At 2:17 a.m., Daniel sat up in bed and stared into the dark. Not again, he thought. Not another woman forced to survive in silence. By morning, his decision was made. "Pull the file on Lena Morales," he said to Auer, his tone calm but final. There was a pause on the line. "Sir," the cleaner assigned to the executive wing. "Yes," Daniel replied. "That cleaner." The file arrived within minutes. It was thin, too thin for someone who had worked there nearly 3 years. No emergency contact, no dependents, no sick days, perfect attendance. Daniel exhaled slowly. Perfect attendance was never a compliment. It was a warning. Later that morning, he positioned himself near the janitorial supply room, far from cameras and executives. When Lena appeared, pushing her cart, she stopped so suddenly the wheels squeaked. I didn't do anything wrong," she said immediately, eyes wide. Daniel shook his head. "You're not in trouble." He handed her a cup of coffee. She hesitated before taking it, as if kindness itself were dangerous. Her hands trembled. "I won't ask questions you don't want to answer," Daniel said. "But I need you to know something. What I saw yesterday, it matters." Silence stretched between them. Finally, Lena whispered, "If I miss work, he gets angry." Daniel felt the words like a punch to the chest. Who? He asked gently. She swallowed. My husband. That was all. No details. No tears. Just truth, stripped bare. Daniel nodded slowly. Thank you for trusting me. That same day, he made calls no one else knew about. A quiet transfer, on paper, to facilities coordination. Same pay, flexible hours, fewer predictable routines, a buffer of safety disguised as promotion. When he handed Lena an envelope, she looked confused. Inside is a number, he said. Private security, and a lawyer who doesn't charge up front. Her eyes filled instantly. I can't afford. You already paid, Daniel said softly. With years of silence, she looked at him then, really looked. Why are you doing this? Daniel's voice lowered. Because when I was 12, I watched my mother hide bruises under makeup. And no one helped her. Lena pressed her lips together, fighting tears. Today, Daniel continued, I can help you. But only if you want it. For the first time since he'd met her, Lena didn't shrink away. She nodded. A small motion, almost invisible, but it was the bravest thing she had ever done. The call came just before noon. Daniel was in a board meeting when his phone vibrated. Security, urgent. He didn't hesitate. He stood, closed his folder, and walked out without a word. Sir, the head of security said over the line, there's a man in the lobby. Aggressive. He's demanding to see a cleaner named Lena. Daniel's jaw tightened. Do not let him pass the desk. I'm on my way. The lobby of Argentum Towers buzzed with tension. Employees stood frozen near elevators, whispering. Phones hovered half-hidden, recording. At the center stood a man with clenched fists and wild eyes, his voice cutting through the space like broken glass. She works here, he shouted. You think you can hide her from me? Daniel stepped forward calmly, authority radiating from him without effort. This is private property, Daniel said. Lower your voice. The man laughed harshly. And who are you supposed to be? I'm the CEO. That stopped him, for half a second. Then the rage returned. That's my wife, the man snarled. She belongs to me. The words echoed. Employees gasped. Someone covered their mouth. Daniel's voice dropped, steady and lethal. No one belongs to anyone in this building. Or anywhere else. The man lunged forward, but security moved instantly, restraining him. He thrashed, screaming Lena's name, promising consequences. Promising punishment. Behind the glass wall near the elevators, Lena stood frozen. Her face was pale, her hands shaking so badly she had to grip the railing to stay upright. Every threat landed like a memory she couldn't escape. Daniel saw her. He turned to security. Call the police. Now. Within minutes, officers arrived. As they led the man away, he twisted around one last time. You'll regret this, he shouted. Lena collapsed into a chair the moment the doors closed. Daniel walked to her slowly and knelt so they were eye level. He can't hurt you here, he said firmly. And he won't anymore. Her voice broke. He knows where I work. He won't after today, Daniel replied. That afternoon, Daniel did something unprecedented. He called an all-hands meeting. Standing before hundreds of employees, he spoke, not as a billionaire, but as someone who had seen silence destroy lives. Abuse survives in the dark, Daniel said. This company will no longer be a place where anyone is forced to suffer quietly. He announced new policies immediately. Confidential reporting, paid leave, legal aid, security protection. Zero tolerance, no exceptions. By evening, the story was everywhere. But inside a quiet office, Lena signed her police report. Her hand trembled, but she didn't stop. For the first time, the silence was broken. And it would never fully return. Spring arrived quietly at Argentum Towers. Sunlight poured through the glass atrium, softening the sharp lines of steel and marble. It had been 6 months since the day the silence shattered, and the building no longer felt the same. It felt human. Lena noticed it first in the small things. People said her name now. Not hey, not cleaner. Lena. They held doors. They asked how she was doing, and waited for the answer. She no longer wore long sleeves. The bruises had faded, leaving behind pale memories she no longer needed to hide. Her life had changed beyond recognition. With the company's legal support, the case moved quickly. The threats stopped. The fear slowly loosened its grip. Lena moved into a small apartment of her own, where silence meant peace instead of danger. For the first time in years, she slept through the night. At work, she was no longer invisible. Daniel had insisted she be trained in facilities management, not as charity, but as recognition. He'd watched her carefully, her precision, her reliability, her quiet leadership. When she was offered a permanent role in operations, Lena cried in the stairwell for a full 10 minutes before saying yes. One afternoon, she found herself standing in the same hallway where everything had begun. The memory washed over her, the fear, the shame, the instinct to disappear. "Funny how places can change," Daniel's voice said behind her. She turned, smiling. "Or maybe we change." He nodded. "You look stronger." "I am," she replied. "Because someone saw me." Argentum Corp became known for more than profits that year. Other companies called, asking how to implement the same policies. Media attention came and went, but the changes stayed. Quiet rooms were added, security protocols updated, training sessions became standard, and stories emerged. Employees, men and women, came forward. Some for the first time. Some after decades of silence. Each one met with support instead of skepticism. One evening, as the building emptied, Lena finished late. She paused in the lobby, watching the lights dim. She was no longer cleaning someone else's reflection. She was standing in her own. Before leaving, Lena placed a small note on Daniel's desk. It read, "Thank you for not looking away." Daniel read it alone, long after she had gone. He folded it carefully and placed it in his drawer, not as a reminder of what he had done, but of what choosing to see could change. Because the bruises faded, but the courage remained, and the legacy, of one woman refusing to stay silent, and one man refusing to ignore it, would last far longer than either of them ever imagined.